This one's by Loot Goblin Marketplace again, who is a very, very cool person. Like, actually, I really like them a lot. We're going to check it out.
Greetings, adventurers, and welcome to the Loot Goblin Marketplace. When it comes to a problem player at the table, they can come in many different forms. Be it a dungeon master or a player, most problem players actually want to get along with the table, but might have a hang-up that causes friction. But occasionally, you get an individual that decided long ago how they decide the game must be played. And when you encounter an individual like that, you will quickly find that it doesn't matter how good at conflict resolutions you are. To them, if you aren't playing the game exactly the way that they want you to, you are wasting their time. Today is a two-parter that includes both a problem player and a problem dungeon master, just to show you a little bit of what you can experience at your table. The first treasure goes by the name Dungeon Master that can't ever communicate ideas, makes for a miserable campaign. Oh boy, did I have a fun dungeon master a while back. It all started when I joined a Roman Empire themed game. I'm a big history nerd. I think that the entire era of human civilization is intriguing, and I was still getting adjusted to Dungeons and Dragons, so this seemed like a great campaign fit for me. But dear God, was I wrong. So wrong. The first sign of trouble was when our group was captured. We had a new player to be introduced, and the Dungeon Master wanted us to be introduced to her in a fight arena type situation. Nothing inherently wrong with that, but he wanted it to be done in a way that was incredibly awkward. I was playing a Goliath, whose village had been saved by the family of another player character who was a human. We were walking through a city, and we were being led down a narrow passage by a very shady dwarf. Given that my character felt a life debt to the other player character, I took on the role of a bodyguard and voiced my concerns about the passage. Some of the party agreed, but the Dungeon Master essentially forced us to, saying things like, "But you're almost at your destination, and come on guys, I worked hard on this," and all that other crap.
Oh, that's not good.
We wouldn't get much of a say in the recurring theme. I know this one is not
the guys I worked hard on this is kind of that's rough, because this is hard railroading, and like if you have to like go out of character to like actually resolve it, it kind of takes you out of the immersion of playing like tabletop. And that's like the whole appeal to tabletop, is like feeling like you can do anything even if you can't. So like it kind of takes, yeah, it's also railroading by guilt. Exactly what Tyrant Slime said in chat. Yeah, exactly. It's exactly that too. So it's like you feel like you have no agency, and it's kind of like, what's the point of playing tabletop? I might as well play like Diablo or something, right? And I feel like that's what happens.
Not bad, but just hold your judgment until the rest of the story. So we follow the dwarf.
So what you would, hold on, wait, let's see the scenario.
We are suddenly locked in a room. Some knockout gas suddenly fills the room, and we have to make stupid high con saves. I was a Goliath with a high.
Honestly, I would just do no con save. If you really wanted to knock someone out, you would not even tell them what the save is. You would have everyone roll. And like maybe if a person rolled a 20, you would still knock them out, but you would give them like a little bit of info or something like that. Like they would have a little bit of something that would help them later, but you would still knock them out basically.
Constitution.
You don't always have to do a save, by the way. And even if you do, it can be fake.
And resistance to poisonous gases. So I made it easy, and so did the other player character my character was protecting. I stated we would gladly stand and fight, so naturally there was also a net that we didn't see in the room before that dropped down on us. However, I immediately succeeded in my roles to get through, and I helped the other player character. The
DM's fucking nightmare is this is the problem. Just don't make them roll, because there's no point in faking faking player agency in this way. It's like you either give them a choice or you don't. You either give them a true like chance, or you don't give them a chance at all. You don't even have them roll. There's no reason to like make people roll and like give them hope. But like you're just rolling for no reason at that point, and it's boring. Which is why sometimes like when people like want to roll something, I just like, you just do it. Like there's no point.
Dungeon Master became audibly frustrated and says the sorcerer cast a sleep spell. I failed the check, but the other player character didn't. So then the Dungeon Master has 20 guards enter the room and demand he accept being captured. We finally accept the Dungeon Master won't let us play this in any other way and just continue on with the story.
The problem actually isn't, here's a misconception. The problem here isn't the setup. The setup of you're in a room and you all get CC'd, and that forces the plot to move forward. That like everybody falls asleep and it moves the plot forward, and then like that's kind of what I need for the story to go by. That's not the problem. The problem is he gave them a chance in the first place. He shouldn't have even given them a chance. That's what I would have done. It would have been like some some sort of like circumstance in which if this is absolutely necessary for the plot, it would be some kind of circumstance where there's absolutely no possible way that you could get out of it, and you would literally just tell them to their face that there's nothing that either you tell them straight up that there's nothing they can do about it, or you have them roll and you don't tell them what the DC. And this is like the thing that like really fucks over a lot of DMs. I think this is the biggest fuck up as a DM is you tell people the DC all the time. There's only one time you tell people the DC, and that's to build tension. Let me explain the difference. So if you don't have to tell them the DC, like say like let's just say like in this case, you would not tell them the DC so that no matter what they roll, it doesn't matter. You would still do the same effect or something close to the same effect, regardless of if it's required for the plot to move forward. A good example of this is like a lock that you absolutely can't have them open. That they need a very specific key to open this lock, and then the rogue is like, "Well, I lockpick it because I'm a rogue." And then they roll. You don't say, well, you know, that's like a DC like 19. You're like, hey, they're never gonna hit 19. No, you literally just say, okay, go ahead and roll, and then they roll, and no matter what they roll, you say you can't open the lock. Right? That's what you do. So the only reason you would tell them the DC is to build tension. So I'll give you an example of that. If a person is like making a life or death jump where they have to jump this ledge or they're fucking dead, and they have like let's say there's like 10 guards chasing them, and this is their only way out, it's you jump and you die, or you get captured, or you jump and you make it. Those are the only options. You tell them, and they're like, I really want to make this jump. You're like, all right, well, that's a, you know, DC 15. Let's see if you make it. And that's only to build tension at the table. So all of the players are like, oh shit, that's really high. Oh man. And the guy goes, fuck it, I'm gonna do it anyway. And he knows in his mind that he has to hit that number. So like everybody's at the edge of their seats, right? Like the tension is built up to the point where everybody's anticipating like, what is the result of this roll? That's the only time you tell them what the roll is. Otherwise you never tell them what the roll is. Because sometimes this is another neat DM trick. I'm not gonna another neat DM trick too is you never tell them the true HP of something. I guess unless I guess in Angel Sword they have the fucking ability. But even then you could fudge it by saying like there's like a second HP bar. You could do that as well. But the reason why I never do this is because sometimes someone does something really fucking cool in the game, and you don't, and say they're like off by like say they do like a crazy attack, and then it's like it's like a super cool like maneuver that they do, and it's like really hard to do, and then they land a crit, and you're like, oh man, and you're just like oh, it's dead, basically, because you let them like have their cool moment of finishing off the enemy, because it's really, really dumb when they do something like that. You're like, it still has 1 HP, right? So it's like there's like the point of DMing really is, well, there's multiple points, but one of the important things, and actually no, you know what? I'll go so far as to say that this is the point of DMing. The point of DMing is that everybody's having fun at the table. That's not to say there can't be consequences, because if there's no consequences, it's not fun. So I'm not saying like, oh, everybody always has fun. Everybody has a great time. Like no one ever loses. That's not what I'm saying. But like things being epic and fun is kind of your job as a DM. So yeah, the less that the players know, the more leeway you have in like kind of shaping the flow of things. And that's why in this case, you would never tell them this, because then they're going to feel scammed, because you're going to be like, oh, it's a DC 20. And then they roll a 20. And then you're like, you still fall asleep. It's like a scam, right? They feel scammed at that point. Oh, now a net falls on top of you. Well, that's a DC 20. And then another person rolls a 20. And then you're like, shit. Well, then the guy comes in the room and he casts sleep. That's a DC 20, and then everyone like rolls a 20 again, and like you just feel like an asshole at that point. So either you stick it or you don't tell them. That's it.
We are then brought into an arena for entertainment by dark elves. We have these magic slave collars that are immune to any and all attempts to get them off, be they mechanical, damage, or magic. We are forced to obey the every words of our masters, and we are forced to fight through his challenges. We meet our new party member, and then we continue our fighting until he decides to have the Imperial Legion come and rescue us after they attack the city. We didn't really get anything of value out of the fighting. It wasn't even enough to warrant a level up apparently. All we did was meet our new party member, and you can't tell me there isn't a better way to do it. So already really feeling like this—
I'm gonna be honest, the way I do EXP is completely different than D&D. And I mean, this is just a me thing. This is just a me thing, but like, you know, you could do however you want at your table. The way I run it is I basically assign an EXP value to like the mission or whatever like the specific segment of the story is. I assign an EXP value to that, and if people do extra stuff that's like really cool, I'll like add some. And then if they yeah, that's it. I'll just give them bonuses, like secret bonuses if like they do something. And I'll usually tell them what it is too. I'll be like, you get this amount of EXP for clearing this, and then you get like an extra 10 because you did this, an extra 15 because you did this, extra 2 because you did this. I'll do that kind of a thing, basically. But I always know like the relative like EXP that they're gonna get from a certain segment, so that I can make sure they feel good about it in the end.
This campaign is going to be a ride on rails adventure, but maybe the dungeon master was just struggling.
I'm not a big fan of rewarding people for like going full murder hobo and just killing like, you know, like a camp of 20 goblins that they should have avoided, but they're like, yeah, but the EXP, like I don't like that in D&D. I know some people like that, but like for instance, like yeah, if you were like there was a camp of goblins and you're like we're gonna sneak past it, that would get you, that would be negative EXP. Rules as written. And I don't like that. I think that's lame as fuck. Like I think like setting up some kind of thing where you sneak past them, you do a little skill thing, they get sneak. I think that's just as cool as like actually murdering them all.
With how to bring new people in, whatever. The new session we
milestones. I use milestones.
One of the players cast an identifier on it, and it was a staff fire. Most of us know what a staff of fire does, so he starts explaining what it does to one of the new players. The dungeon master freaks out and accuses him of metagaming. We point out that he is from a highly educated aristocratic family, and he would definitely have that sort of knowledge, and that we had cast a spell to identify it. The dungeon master gets angry and tells us that that isn't how identify works in his setting, that he has changed how identify works, and we have to accept his ruling even though he didn't tell us in advance.
Okay, so here's how you fix this. This is one of my top Uber secrets. I'm gonna tell you like how you fix this. So what you do is if you don't want people to metagame something, but it's like public knowledge, you change it slightly. So it's not exactly a fire staff and it does like a slightly different thing. And that's how I do it basically. So I'll give you a good example. Say there's like a monster and like it's already statted and people know exactly what that monster does. Like let's just say like a let's just use like a zombie. Actually, let's not use a zombie. I don't want to cause any PTSD in the chat, you know. Let's use okay, let's use I don't know, like let's use a like a giant rat, right? A giant rat, and like you would know, like people would know like what a giant rat is capable of. Like they would know like, oh yeah, a giant rat does this, right? So it's like you see a giant rat, okay, well we know how much HP it has, we know what its AC is, we know its moveset, and then you fuck with that like even slightly. You give it like a new move, you increase or decrease the HP, but then you tune the armor as well. And then you give it like some crazy ability. And then that will like confuse the fuck out of people that metagame. They'll be like, but it doesn't do that. And I said, when did I say it was a regular giant rat? When did I say that? But I didn't say anything about it being a regular ass giant rat. You think it's a regular ass giant rat, but maybe it's not. Maybe this is some kind of giant rat from only a place that the devil would know. Yeah, and you make it like slightly different just to like fuck with people if they're like metagaming. If you think someone's metagaming like really hard, this is the best trap against metagamers. So like as a DM, you just have to have the skill to identify like, oh, this person's a metagamer, and then you just fuck with them like this basically. You teach them basically to, and see, here's the good thing about this. You teach them to never metagame you ever again. So next time you can run the straight up one from the book, and then they won't even know. They'll be afraid of whatever the hell bag of tricks it could possibly have in its asshole. And that's why you do that, basically.
Recurring theme. One thing that I try to do as a dungeon
You hate
master
metagaming?
is,
When people metagame, like I love it because I just get to troll them and it's great.
if I want something to definitely happen during a setting,
The only metagaming I don't like is when people do out of character actions like in character. That's the one I don't like. That's the one that I will be like, you knock that off if they do that, because that's really annoying.
don't leave it up to chance to roll the dice. So for example, they have that situation where they go down the alleyway.
Like, I'll give you an example. Like their character is like intentionally like made to be like a coward, but then like right when the fucking loot is there, they're like, yeah, like I walk forward before everyone else because they want the loot. Yeah, then I'm like, yeah, you knocked that off, dude.
Allows the party to make several winnable rolls, which they do indeed win, in a scenario where he definitely doesn't want them to win because he needs to bring them to the second location. So he did the gas, it doesn't work, right? He does the net, it doesn't work. He does the sleep spell, it only kind of works. And then he brings in 20 guards to arrest them and send them on their way. And the party feels cheated for something that should have just been like a quick conversation.
Yep, exactly.
Of, hey, you go down the alleyway, it's an ambush. And yeah, if a spell works differently, that's something
Yeah, exactly.
that you want to introduce in a session 0. And if you totally
Also, that alleyway would have been a perfect ambush spot. Like, what the fuck? Like, if this is an alleyway, you can have like people on the roofs and stuff, and like that's really hard to deal with. You have people on the roofs, you have like windows open up, and then like people like shooting through the windows, and like you could put like a tripwire in the alleyway where like they hit the tripwire and then like something happens. Like an alleyway is the perfect place to have this kind of a thing. That's so weird that like they had to take it to like a specific room. It just seems like a lack of imagination, really.
forget, I mean, it does happen, but to say, oh, that's how it works in my world and you're wrong, and make it sound like it's something that the players did wrong when it's really an oversight of you not sharing it, that's just confrontation that does need to happen at the table. But let's see how much worse it gets. So fast forward a couple sessions.
So the trick is sometimes you will fuck up as a DM. This will happen, and this is a trick you don't want to always use. But this is a trick that you always have in your toolbox as a DM. Because you will inevitably fuck up. It's very hard to not fuck up. So here's the problem, and this is me speaking as a DM who also plays sometimes. I'm gonna share a little something with people that don't DM. It's actually incredibly hard to DM. There are a lot of things you have to simulate simultaneously. Like for instance, I mean, I'll just go back to the zombie fight, for instance, from when I ran the zombie fight. I forgot that there was rough terrain at some points, and I moved a little too much. I fucked up. And if your players call you out on it, you say, oh, oops, yeah, I messed that up. Like, oops, right? But sometimes you'll mess up like a story thing on accident. Because again, there's so much you're keeping track of. And you'll have an instance where, let's use, I guess, this let's say that you said previously that the monster has a fire staff. All right. The goblin shaman has a fire staff. You learn he has a fire staff and it has these abilities. And so they fight the goblin shaman, but he has an ice staff. And your players are like, wait a minute, you fucked up. He has an ice staff. So, and you're like, oh crap, I fucked up. Here's the ultimate trick, Teal Seal. But don't use this all the time. You have to be careful. This is like a last resort technique. You say, that's fucking interesting, isn't it? And then you change it to an ice staff. So you go back into the story, you change it. He does indeed have an ice staff. But why does he have an ice staff this time? Yeah, maybe he has a twin. Maybe he has a twin that uses a fire staff. Maybe he discovered something, or he found a new ice staff that's like way better than the old fire staff. So the intel that they have is actually wrong. Maybe it's an ice staff that turns into a fire staff, and it can shift between the two elements at will. that is like your ultimate power as a DM, is to do that. It's the real quick retcon, but you have to be confident. You have to not you have to really roll a deception check against your party. You have to be like, oh shit, huh, that's interesting. That's interesting, isn't it? And then you're sweating because you're hoping they buy this. And then they're like, oh shit. And then so what happens is now the party starts coming up with theories. This is the other DM trick, by the way. I'm gonna give you another DM trick. Now the party starts coming up with theories because they're like, well, maybe he has a twin brother. Maybe his twin brother is the fire one and he's the ice one. And then you're like, oh shit, I didn't think of that, but that sounds kind of sick. And you write it down. He has a twin brother that uses a fire staff. You write that down, you sneak it out, you put it into your notes, and you use it later. And then he becomes a boss later, the fire guy. Yeah.
And we killed the big bad way too early. The big bad was supposed to be a vampire that was...
That's another trick that's really, really good. And the other thing too is some people might not agree with me on this. Like this is kind of a... I'd say about like maybe 50% of people would agree with this, and 50% of DMs would say I'm committing like hard sacrilege. But sometimes the player theory is better than what you have written. And all that matters is that it's better for everybody. So if the player theory is better, sometimes I will slowly shift things towards the player theory because I think that it's a more interesting story.
In the other player character's family, an ancestor.
Because I'm not obsessed with my own story. I'm more like I want people to have fun. I'm obsessed with the overarching story, but like for small things, I don't mind shifting it around if it leads to a better experience for everybody. So I don't mind that. But some DMs are very like they think that that's cheating and that they would rather just I stick with what I have and that's it. You do you. But I'm just saying that like how I like to DM is I've seen it many times where they come up with some crazy theory and you're like, that's actually like a really fucking sick plot and I'm gonna like use that. And then you do like not exactly what they said, but you do like some kind of version of it. Like you take it back into the lab and you hammer it out a bit until you have something similar to like what they were talking about. But it's not exactly that. And then when they get to it, they're like, I fucking knew it. And you see their face light up. Well, not either their face or their voice or their writing or the way that they type in the group chat. And they get so happy. They're like, oh shit, I fucking knew it, man. Yeah, I figured that out like so long ago. And you're like, yeah, man, like you fucking nailed it, right? And they're so happy. And then everybody's having a good time.
Knock him into sunlight, and I just get insanely lucky on some holy attacks, and we kill him. The next 2 sessions go by without incident, and then we encounter another vampire. Now this vampire is just an underling to an even stronger vampire. My character, sensing an opportunity, decides to try to work with this underling. I suggest that we all work together and bring down his master. Then we can split his domain, and he can live another...
Senji says, DM here, I listen to players' theories, I steal all and put into my lore. Yeah, for real.
Day. The Dungeon Master, instead of letting
have like 50% of DMing is like being a bullshit artist, honestly, is being able to take what's happening in real time and then like fuse it with like what you have. So you have like your world and then you're constantly fusing stuff based on like your inspiration, other people's theories, what other people do. And you're constantly like kind of molding this thing like in real time. It's kind of like almost like, I guess like I don't explain this. It'd be like maybe pottery or something where you're just like kind of like you're kind of shaping it in different ways, and then like maybe like you slip a bit and then like it makes like a little indent that you didn't intend, but you're like, actually it looks kind of cool, and then like you work around it, and it's kind of like that.
Role play this out, decides that
because you can't plan everything exactly what Vesalgar says. You can't plan everything; it's impossible. You can't. No. So it's basically DMing is about simulating the existence of an entire world, which is a tall order. So you should be patient with your DMs because it's a really tall order to simulate like an entire world, so they're bound to make mistakes. They're bound to fuck up something at some point, just because of the sheer level of simulation that they have to run in their minds. we really need AI. AI helps a lot. But that's another trick, by the way, and again, another one that people would be very, very upset with. I use AI for things that don't matter. So like my story isn't really the story isn't AI, but like say like a person's like I want to like talk to this person, and like you're already mentally burdened with something else. You can pass off. I think of AI as like an assistant, like a little like a friend who's like you know, not quite as good as you are, but like they're competent enough. And like you're running in the middle of a session and you're like, oh shit, somebody wants to do something else, and you're like, hey friend, could you do that for me? And I do this actually with real people sometimes. Sometimes like I'll be in the middle of a session, I'll be like, hey Ira, I need help. I need this enemy, and I need this enemy like bad, like right now. Could you like make this for me? Like this is what he does. Like I need his stats. Like, can you do that real fast? And then Ira will like do that for me, right? And AI is basically that, but everybody has access to it. So you can basically say like, oh yeah. Listen, AI, like this person, like he wants to talk to this girl. I don't know fucking anything about her, but he's like he's a bard and he's hitting on this girl and he's asking about like her family, and I don't have time to think about that. Like like okay. She's from here. This is her race. This is her name. This is what she looks like. She comes from she's a merchant. Her dad is a merchant. She's a merchant. She's traveling with this caravan. Okay, go. Right? What was her caravan doing? Where are they going? Where are they going tomorrow? What do they have in their caravan? And you just like, boom, hey, I go take care of that. All right, back to the party. All right, guys. So you guys are walking down this corridor. Your bard is off to the side chatting up some woman, and you basically like now you're focused on like your party, and the bard can go fuck off and talk to her, and then like okay, she's from this, and so the bard asks, where are you from, my lady? And you're like, oh, she's from Pokemon. Or whatever, like it'll come up with a name, right? And he's like, she's from Pokemon in the Gun Grasslands. Fuck you, Forest. She's from Fuck you, Forest, exactly. And so you can basically use the AI to like you already have all that stuff like kind of like generated out for you on the side while you focus on the other people, and it helps you like split your mental capabilities in terms of world simulation. Does that make sense? Sorry. I might be like kind of ADDing a bit. I'm trying to explain like a lot.
Question me out of character. He literally asked me if I'm betraying the party and questioned
How do DMs not become overloaded keeping track of information? Autism. It's like you write everything down as much as you can. As much as you can. You want to know another trick I do? You want to know? Here's another, guys. Oh man, I'm giving all my tricks away. Here's my other. You want to know another trick, dude? This trick is fucking OP, dude. This trick is so overpowered. If you're running a text game, this is like mostly for text games, but you could use it for other stuff. But it's mostly for text games. You copy paste the entire log. Every roll, every action, you copy paste it into the AI and you ask the AI to parse it and give you cliff notes. It's actually ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And then now you have like cliff notes of like every single like thing that happened and plot lines that you can follow.
my motives. While I was trying to either trick the vampire or stall for time, another player launches an attack on the vampire and the fight begins. So I decide that since my ruse has been failed, I will charge in. Suddenly, one of the other players in the campaign uses an attack of opportunity on me. The vampire had charmed her when we first entered the room, silently, and she was now attacking me. Her attack fails and I reach the vampire, so what does she do? Oh, nothing major. She just uses a 4th level moonbeam on me. Now, first of all, she centers it on me, so I say, well, at least you're hitting the vampire, to which the dungeon master said, oh, then you must have meant to cast it one tile over. I called bullshit, but he went through with it anyway.
Wait, what? Hold on, what? Now, first of all, she centers it on me, so I say, well, at least you are hitting the vampire. To which the DM said, oh, then you must have meant to cast it one tile over. Wait, what? Wait, hold on. She uses a 4th level moonbeam on me. Now, first of all, she centers it on me, so I say, well, you're hitting the vampire, to which the DM says, then you must have meant to cast it one tile over? Wait, so the DM made a play error?
We still...
You just say I fucked up. Don't players say that? Players say that all the time. Players say that all the time, though. Players do that all the time. Oh, like I didn't. That's not what I meant. I meant like here. As long as like the dice haven't been, as long as you haven't rolled yet, I think it's fine. I think it's fine because like it's kind of hard sometimes to like visualize like what's happening, or it's hard to understand like every single spell as well. So as long as like they haven't rolled the dice yet, it hasn't really affected much. Like even players do this all the time too. Or tell, oh, I didn't mean to like walk like there. I meant like this spot. Like I don't really have a problem with it. As long as it's not like, well, it depends. Like it depends on the situation. Sometimes I'll say no. Sometimes I'll say yes. Oh, so forcing the player not to accidentally friendly fire the vampire. When the player was charmed, so forcing the player not to accidentally friendly fire the vampire's fair. Yeah, exactly. So basically, the way I do it, the way I think of it is, would the player realistically make that action? The character, right? Because it's different when you're in there versus like you know, you make a mistake because of just the visual clutter of like a board, right? Yeah, if it's not malicious, yeah. Obviously.
After that, she says she was charmed, so he was controlling her, and she was forced to attack me. I point out that vampiric charm doesn't work like that.
This is like this kind of mechanic is you need to use this very rarely, because taking an entire player out of like a combat like this is annoying.
That it makes you view them as a best friend to protect and listen to.
Did you guys notice that AS has like barely any like hard CC, and all hard CC is basically avoidable in some way? It's because this is really annoying. If you're ever a player and then like you get slept by a creature, and then like you're rolling for like 3 turns, because you have to understand like a round of D&D is really fucking long in terms of like actual real time. And then you get slept for like 3 rounds in a row, and then you're just like basically AFK for like 3 rounds. It's really annoying.
That she had not yet been ordered to attack us, and so at that point, she was literally casting her highest possible attack on one friend to stop him from fighting another. That's when the Dungeon Master stepped in. They had planned it before the session since we killed the last vampire too easily. That's right, his attempt to balance the encounter was to have one of the players force onto the enemy's team without any of us knowing. He had planned for her to be taken over and for her to fight on his side. I again stress that vampire charm does not make you do all this, and that she shouldn't have been.
On the flip side, the DM could make a vampire that has that ability. It doesn't have to be like within the rules of the book.
Immediately attacking us without the vampire taking the action to convince her. That she should have seen it as a fight between friends. And
Cyrus says the least fun thing about playing a character is not getting to play your character. Yeah, oh, by the way, that's why we have that down system. Did you guys know that? That's why there's a down system in our game, where like if you're down, you can still do stuff at least a little bit. It's for that reason. It's because like I remember there being cases of like a person getting like turbo crit, and they basically get completely fucked just from due to RNG, and then they're like their character gets like KO'd, and then it's kind of like, well guys, I'm gonna go to Taco Bell. I'll be right back. I'll see you guys in 3 hours. Like it's that kind of a thing. And it's really like it's really annoying. So that's why we did that.
Should have been trying to resolve the fight or separate us without trying to kill her party. That she should have tried something more along the lines of grapple or physically separating us before blasting me with their highest level spell. And the Dungeon Master's response, in my world it is, you aren't accepting my ruling, no pony.
She said it's something grapple or physically separating us before blasting me with her highest level. I mean, the DM honestly can do whatever they want. That's kind of the truth. The DM doesn't have to follow the rules of the book exactly. In fact, I think that's one of the major rules. And isn't that one of the rules? I don't know. I haven't read a D&D book in forever, but I know that was in the old games where that was the most, like that was one of the rules, is like you can just make up whatever you want.
I point out that it fundamentally changes the dynamic of charm, and I would have grabbed it as a spell if I knew it was just an.
Well, no, because the player charm could be different from DM charm. Like the specific ability that the enemy has could be different from player charm. Player charm is just what the players have access to.
Upcast of dominant mind that I could have gone bard.
I'm gonna be real. Players doing the no, I can't. You can't do that is the worst stuff. Well, yeah, I just fuck them over basically if they do that too much.
And found a way to get too.
I just say, well, too bad it can. Too bad it can. You don't. How do you know? How do you know that it's exactly this monster? Or how do you know that the spell that it's using is exactly the spell? You have no idea. Like the idea that your character could possibly know every variant of this spell and even what is even possible, what is, and things that, like, how would your character know every single thing that is like possible, basically? So like you doing that is metagaming in general. So what are you even talking about?
Cast of charm going at once, allowing me to charm half a dozen enemies every encounter to attack bosses. That all this would be fine if he had just at least explained the change before it was sprung on us, so that we could plan accordingly.
Well, again, it doesn't have to be the same ability. If an NPC uses charm, it doesn't have to be the same version as the charm that players have access to.
But he refused to budge and told me to accept the ruling, so I did. My friend and I are not very happy at this point. By this point, we were starting to get annoyed by him changing how fundamentals worked without telling us in advance. He just seems interested in telling exactly—
It depends on the fundamental. If it's like I don't think that a spell or ability is a fundamental, to be honest. I think a fundamental would be like how movement works, or the rules for attack, or like something like that would be like a fundamental, because those are things that you have to have an understanding of in order to play your character. But the knowledge of an ability that an enemy has does not fall within fundamentals, in my opinion.
the story he wants and doesn't care to let us play outside his narrow confines. He doesn't care if he has to fundamentally alter the rules of basic D&D content, so long as he gets to tell his story. He doesn't care about us, just his plot. But I've already invested so much time into this campaign, so I tolerate all the shit. But then came the straw that broke the proverbial
let's hear it.
back. We were sent to talk—
I'm gonna be real, this guy kind of sounds like a bitch, to be honest. Like the player.
Talk with the elves for help with something.
I'm not saying that the DM is perfect, but like the player also sounds like a bitch.
When we teleported over, however, we found ourselves under attack by spiders and some other creatures. We survived the encounter and find our way to the elf city we were originally
He does sound like a metagamer, actually.
going to. We were told that Arachne is coordinating spider forces to attack the elves to help the drow and the spider queen. We were informed that multiple of their best hunters were sent out, but all were killed and eaten. Remember this. I swear it is important. They're concerned that their city will be overwhelmed, so we agree to kill Arachne for them. So we kill
let me
were sent out, but all were killed and eaten.
So their best hunters went out and they're all dead.
Remember this. I swear it is important. They're concerned that their city will be overwhelmed, so we agree to kill Arachne for them. So we kill Arachne and her minions with little trouble, and we return to the city. We were treated to a banquet, and the Dungeon Master starts describing the scene. He mentions the large buffet tables are spread around the room with an unimaginable numbers of fruits, vegetables, and grains. He specifically makes a note that my character is sad to see that there is no meat around. So,
well, I mean, has your character...
I jokingly retorted, well, there are elves around. I made that joke entirely in jest and said it while he was describing the setting, so I meant it as an out-of-character joke. But before I could even explain, the elf and half-elf in our party immediately rolled to try to intimidate me. I succeed in checks and counter-intimidate. Suddenly, I'm pulled out of the dining hall.
I succeed in checks. Okay, so... yeah. Okay. This player is actually in the wrong here. Do you want to know why this player's in the wrong? You might think that I would think that the player is completely in the right because he made a joke. The reason the player is being a bitch is he didn't say anything and he counter-rolled. Exactly as another. He counter-rolled instead of said, that was just a joke. That was an out-of-character joke. That wasn't me saying it. That wasn't my character. That was me. It's just a joke. Then this could have been all avoided. But the fact that he didn't communicate that and instead counter-rolled against it basically means he's effectively saying it's in character.
Hall and into the forests. A humanoid approaches me and demands to know why I want to eat elves. I say I don't, and it was just a joke. This entity then demands I apologize, to which I refuse.
Wait, so it was a joke in character? Then what is he complaining about? Dude.
I am then sent back to the banquet, sans my armor and weapons. All of this has happened in the span of like 90 seconds. At this point, I'm overwhelmed and doubling down since I have so little time to think. The rest of my party is confused as I disappeared.
If you have problems with that, by the way, if you have little time to think and you're getting blitzed, there's an easy and very simple solution to this. You tell the DM, hold on, I need to think for a bit. That's it. It's that simple. It's that simple.
appeared without my stuff. A priest says that I must have pissed off their patron deity. My character hears a voice in his head a moment later asking if I will apologize yet. I'm still reeling from how stupid this all is, and still defensive after being attacked by multiple players and the Dungeon Master. So I double down and say no, that I have done nothing wrong.
If my character in character would take that seriously, I'd attack him too. I'd attack him too. Like, what is he talking about?
So then my clothes and all their items are taken, rinse and repeat. Then my character is teleported away again, and this time I'm in front.
Why would you be in a party with somebody that you actually think is going to do that? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
A humanoid that is the elven god again. They demand I apologize for my one-line joke, and again I refuse because this is all so
then just say that it was out of character. Like,
and absurd. So my character gets body morphed from a Goliath to a human, and then my character is chained to a tree where I will every day have to make a constitution save until I fail and am forced to apologize. So I call this challenge and roll, making the save. The Dungeon Master is very frustrated at this point and demands to know what my end goal is. I reply by asking what his is, since he is literally body morphing me and literally taking all my equipment over a joke.
That's a
in this campaign, gods are very real and can and do get involved with the world. I didn't take it as a joke. You didn't say you were joking right away, and you were even in the heart of elven power. Now, first of all, when are the gods not very real in D&D? I am pretty sure it would be unusual for gods not to be real, or am I going insane? Second, every time I say a throwaway line, am I supposed to stop the entire campaign to say, oh, and by the way, before anyone gets offended or I piss off a local deity, I must interrupt to clarify that.
No. No, wait, this guy's just wrong, straight up. No, he did say it in character. He's saying it right now.
What I said was meant to be taken in a joking manner. My character should not be held liable for any offense that comes from it.
This is dumb. This is dumb. It's not his decision. It's not his character's right to okay, when it comes to on the table, where on the table in character, you do not have a right to your intentions being known. He's a bitch. Yeah, this is ridiculous.
Not mean it in any other way than a comedic relief. Please do not smite me. My character has never shown any evil tendencies as a paladin, so it should have obviously been a joke. And since it was said during the description of the room, it should have been seen as an out of character comment. But even if all that was not clear enough, what actually happened was my character looked sad and then said, well, there are elves around. So the rest of the party was metagaming that meant I wanted to eat an elf. But now the biggest issue I pointed out to him, if this elven god is real and gets so angry over a joke that he body morphs and tortures someone after stealing their shit, where was this god when the elves were literally getting eaten by monsters? Monsters were literally eating their best soldier.
Well, there's multiple explanations for that, but there's multiple explanations for like how that could be possible. But again, like if you have a problem with something, if you didn't mean something, then just say it. Basically, just take a step back and be like, hey guys, like just out of character. That wasn't in character. That was just a joke. Like there's like an out of table joke. And everyone's like, oh, okay, yeah, no problem.
And the drow were planning an attack, and their god just stood by and watched for shits and giggles.
This guy's like literally Karening out right now. It's actually insane.
Why would their god go so far out of their way to punish a joke made by someone who just saved the elves while also allowing monsters to roam free and eat elves? He literally had no answer.
This guy is literally like this guy is literally doing like half of the stuff that he's accusing the other guy of doing, which is hilarious.
Said that the gods do as they will.
I'm not saying the DM is perfect. The DM did fuck up a couple things, which I did talk about, but
that the god's motivation is entirely inconsistent with the god's actions. The Dungeon Master then says, I've been a dick ever since the Charmed episode, and that I need to apologize for the joke. This whole elf situation was so infuriating that I left the campaign over it, and my friend left the next session when I was being shit on. It was just such a nightmare. The Dungeon Master was consistently changing rules on the fly and making such bizarre and bad decisions. It was
if the DM makes a bizarre or bad decision, like they fuck up mechanics, you can bring it up. You can bring it up, and then they can rectify it. Like D&D is a game of you have to communicate with other people. I know that's really hard for nerds. Like even for me, it's really, really hard. But you have to communicate with other people like an adult. Otherwise, you're gonna have a bad time.
baffling being there. The Dungeon Master and friend were also in another campaign together as players, and he was also hostile to me there too. Eventually, he was ejected from the campaign because he was just an all-around terrible player who, ironically enough, would not listen to the Dungeon Master rulings and whined every time something didn't go his way. I would give this guy more leeway if he was a saint of a player, where maybe he pushes back occasionally and says, hey, in my campaign I do it like this, also this is how the book does it, kind of am curious why you do it a different way, and then after the Dungeon Master explains it, backs off and says, okay, that's totally fine, if that's what you want to do in your campaign, I do it a little differently. I was just checking because I was confused. That's the kind of person who respects Dungeon Masters and is a Dungeon Master himself, so he knows how hard it can be when people are constantly pushing back at him. But this guy is a petty individual. He seems like someone who just wants to be in control. I'm sure the author is disagreeable as a person, but he made some very good points when it came to the elf. I feel like the way he brought it up and the way the Dungeon Master responded based on how the story's written, it was more or less respectful, but then over time it got more and more petty, where he was like trying to prove the Dungeon Master wrong. The Elven God situation was
I'm glad that Goblin is noting this.
The Dungeon Master just having a power trip, because he explains so many different ways why it doesn't make sense for his character to be punished. And the fact that the Dungeon Master basically halted the progress of the entire session just so he could point out that the paladin's in trouble, he's going to be punished in perpetuity. The Elven God's literally descended from the heavens and is yelling at him.
He got blue lightninged. If you don't know what that is, in like tabletop, blue lightning is when you're acting up like so bad that the DM literally steps in and like kills you from above. The DM like basically bolt from God, you're dead. Basically is that's what that is.
Personally, and taking all his stuff.
Yeah.
What really is the end goal of that, and how?
Which the DM can do, by the way, if you're acting up. I 100% think the DM is right to just fucking kill you. Like if they want
the party really benefit. I know some of them are elves.
It's a death note loss. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe it was offensive to them, but if your party seriously took that joke as anything other than a quick one-off comment, maybe the whole party is just a little bit too sensitive, and I'm glad you and your friend eventually left. I'm curious about your guys' comments as well, and I'm going to jump into the second story, which goes by the name, That Guy Only Wants to Play Homebrew with New Dungeon Master Isn't Invited to the Next Campaign.
Ooh.
But before I go any further, I wanted to give D&D Dice a shout out, my favorite dice shop and where half of my paycheck goes to every month. They've got a lot of options, including their original 11-piece dice sets that they call the King of Crits series.
Ooh.
Be sure to use the code Loot Goblin to
Are they fucking loaded? Is that why they're called the King of
support
Crits?
the channel at dnddice.com, or you can just click the link down in that video description.
I love dice, you guys. I just love them. I love like holding them in my hand and like, you know, I should fidget with dice more. Actually, just like put them in my hand and just kind of like move them around. They're so satisfying.
Check out with your favorite
I have
dice.
so many
As
dice,
an
guys.
edgelord
I have
myself,
just bags
my
of
favorite
dice.
collections are the Plague Doctor and Blood Hunter 11-piece sets, which I use alongside their Tomb of the Lich dice tower. Anyways, back to the video.
I don't like dice
under
towers.
A year ago, I was invited to be a player.
I like dice cups more than dice towers, but I like. Okay, dice cup is better than dice tower, but just straight roll onto the table is the best. Like just the hard, like straight roll onto the table is my favorite.
At a D&D table starting up a campaign. Now, previous to that, I had been a forever Dungeon Master for a good 4 to 5 years and was currently running another campaign.
I roll in real life dice when I'm DMing for stuff I don't want the other people to see. Oh, you want to know another trick? You want to know like a really good DM trick? If you're ever DMing, you should just roll randomly. Like actually, you should just randomly roll the dice. For no reason whatsoever. I do it all the time. I just roll the dice for no reason, just so people can see that I'm rolling, and then it doesn't actually mean anything. And then you roll and you get like a low number, and you're like, go on.
So I immediately jumped at the opportunity. The table was mostly made up of newer and inexperienced players, all with maybe 5 to 6 sessions under their belt, including the Dungeon Master, who had never actually been a player before. He was a Dungeon Master for all of those 5 to 6 sessions.
Yeah, oh nothing.
This was with the exception of myself and this other guy who both had a butt ton of experience. Though I don't think he had ever dungeon mastered. I referred to this person as that guy. That guy had also played in those 5 to 6 sessions, which were 2 earlier campaigns they tried to do that fell apart. Through the grapevine, I heard that in the previous 2 campaigns that fell apart, Guy refused to play as anything other than homebrew classes at this table with a new dungeon master who had never played before. Classes that I found out later were from D&D Wiki. Along with this, that guy would also refuse to share what class or race he was ever playing as. That guy's character just so happened to then be significantly stronger than everyone else's characters in just about every single way. The dungeon master was, still is, good friends with that guy, and always seemed to listen to them and follow what they say. This caused a lot of friction between that guy and some others at the table. When the group chat for this new campaign
this seems like a gore whirlwind situation. What do you think? You think they're about to get bugbeared?
was made, the dungeon master stated up front that the new rule for this campaign would be that everyone had to share with the rest of the party what class they were playing.
Your favorite.
As we started bouncing ideas off each other.
Yeah, me and Ira played in this D&D campaign where they told us no homebrew. They said we're like, yeah, we're gonna join. They're like, yeah, no homebrew, and we're like, well, there's this race from like this book. It's not really homebrew. It's like one of the other D&D like alternate books. Like, can I play this? No, none of that. Only just a straight like normal ones. I'm like, okay. We get into the game, and his friend that's playing in the game is playing literally a bugbear with a magic weapon artifact. Like, he started with it, and like none of us had anything. It was fucking crazy. And then like we had like a fight where we started fighting. It's like, oh, like, you know, this monster attacks. We're like, okay. And his friend and like, you know, oh, like you know, I moved to here, and then like I cast bless, okay, and then like I forgot what Ira was playing, but I do this thing, and then the friend goes, for my action, I pull out my gore axe. And then I was like, what? I pull out my gore axe, and then my gore axe opens, and entrails spill from it. And we were like, oh boy. And he's like, then I spin my body, and I create a magical whirlwind of gore. And the whirlwind of gore slices and dices the enemy for 40 damage. And then we were like, what the fuck? We're like, what the fuck is going on? And then I remember Ira at the end of the game, so we're playing it, right? And Ira goes, guys, you know, I found out I'm gonna be busy for the next couple weeks, so I can't play anymore. And he just fucking dips. And I'm the only one left in the campaign, so I get ditched. I'm in the, and Ira's like, you really should leave. And I'm like, nah, dude, like I haven't played. And you have to understand, like I was like forever DM at this point, so I was like really excited to play. I was like, I finally get to play. And this happened, and I'm like, oh, man, I'm gonna give it another chance. Because I really want to play. And Ira's like, all right, whatever. And so like I play another round, and then he's like, you enter the dungeon, and he's like, I take my whirlwind axe and I walk into the dungeon. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm playing a priest. I'm like, I walk into the room. I follow after the bugbear. And you get in the room, and he's like, suddenly roll perception checks. And I'm like, I rolled. And like I rolled, and I missed. Did I miss the roll? I don't know if I missed the roll. Did I miss the roll? Yeah, I did. I did miss the roll. I missed the roll. Oh. You suddenly, a giant spider falls from the ceiling down onto you. Roll a dex save. And like I'm playing a cleric with like armor. So like I don't have a dex save. Like my dex save sucks ass. I roll my dex save, I fail it. And he goes, the giant spider falls on top of you and crushes your entire body. You are dead. And I remember being like, all right, peace. And I just left. I was like, I'm done. This is over, bro. Like, dude, thank God I died there. You know what I mean? Like, oh God. Yeah, good. I ask Ira. That's a true story. That actually happened. That's actually a true story. Like, that entire thing was actually true. All of it. It was like I was actually so mind fucked when that happened. I was like, is this what it's like? Because I remember my D&D players were like, Leaf, you're the best DM. Like, can we play again? Because like you're the best DM. Like, I want to just play in your games. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll play. We can run, right? And I didn't know that this is probably why people think that. Like, I don't think I'm that good, to be honest. But like, I feel like, is that really what it's like? Like, is that why? Is that why? Like, is that what happens when you play with pugs? Oh yeah, I didn't mention the no sleeping thing too. You couldn't sleep in the game. Like, there was no sleeping because it was a spooky world in which like if you fell asleep you died. Yeah. Don't ever play with randos. The amount of bad DMs for pugs is concerning, and so this is my concern with it, right? Like, I'm not gonna keep glazing myself, but my real concern with it is, like, say you're a new player and you're like, wow, D&D sounds so fun, like I would love to play tabletop, and then you play tabletop, and then this is your DM, and this is your party. Then you're probably gonna say, wow, this is the worst fucking game ever. Like, why would I want to play this? And then you just never play it again. And I think that's a travesty. Really, that's really, really awful. That like people that would happen to people, and then they would be like, this is the worst. Like, I don't know why anyone would enjoy this, and then they never get to experience it for the rest of their life. And I feel like hearing things like this is why I've tried not to play. Yeah, and this is why I tell everyone that wants to like get into tabletop, like they want to play like D&D or they want to play tabletop, whatever it is. The thing you have to understand is that your experience is going to be drastically different based on your party and your DM. So it's a combination of your party and your DM, and also yourself. So it's like the factors that you have are what DM you have, what players you have, like what's the chemistry between like the players that are playing, and also you yourself having a good attitude and like actually like being willing to actually engage. Because if you don't ever say anything, then you're not really going to experience the game. Like, you have to like actually like engage with the story. And that's what makes tabletop the best game, is being able to do anything and like engage with the world. And like, it's the only game that you can do anything that you want within the confines of your character. And that's what's so great about it. And the idea that like people would be stopped from even experiencing like a good game really breaks my heart, actually, because they have like a party like that.
In the chat as what we would play, that guy stated that he was going to play a homebrew class called a cuisiner. I quickly took a look at the class. It's ridiculously overpowered. I really couldn't help but feel that guy was trying to pull one over on the new dungeon master who didn't know any better about game balance. I brought up my concern to the dungeon master in private, going over some of the class's abilities and comparing to similar official class abilities. For example, it had sort of a combination of Barbarian's 9th level feature, Brutal Critical, and the Monk's 5th level feature, Stunning Strike, as just one of its like 7 first level features, and in certain cases really stepped on his toes in authority as the dungeon master. The dungeon master took what I said to mine, and together we found a different homebrew class, the chef, that was the same concept but more appropriately balanced.
Okay.
Onward the campaign went. The first few sessions there weren't too many problems. That guy did sort of act and talk like he knew better than everyone else, but most of the table, the exception of one player whom that guy always butted heads with, was willing to tolerate it so long as it didn't get worse. But it got worse. That guy soon sort of developed a main character attitude, constantly leaving an area where the rest of the party is role-playing with each other to have the dungeon master concentrate on what he was doing, often building a nest as his character was the duck, for like 20 minutes. This happened at least once, sometimes twice a session. He, depending on whose interpretation you ask, I didn't witness the interactions myself, criticized the player that he butted heads with for multiclassing to take a level of fighter on his 5 levels barbarian, claiming that they hadn't put enough effort into role-playing in order to earn it. Wait,
Ugh.
let me get this straight. This is coming from the Duck Chef that you're not role-playing seriously enough to earn a pretty basic multi-class. The only role-playing as Barbarian you need to do to pick something so close like Fighter is to say, hey, you know, usually I get angry. I should learn one or two techniques on how to swing my axe when I'm angry and not just swing it like haphazardly. But to be fair, the Duck is building nests. I guess that's in character probably, so he is role-playing very well, even if it's a joke character. So maybe I'm being too harsh on him. Worst of all, that guy started consistently arguing against the Dungeon Master over rulings at the table. Because the Dungeon Master was new and that guy knew a lot about D&D, he would just concede or take that guy's argument or complaint for fact. The Dungeon Master also listened to my advice a lot. I had been helpful.
This is honestly kind of hard though, because if you are new and you have a friend with authority, it's really hard to not listen to them, right? I think that's a very, very hard thing for the DM in this case, because if you don't know any better, why wouldn't you listen to the person that has more experience? I feel like you would just listen to it.
At the table, guiding the party to bite the plot hooks or offering my knowledge of rules when asked. I have most spells, class features, and stats and costs for weapons, armors, tools, equipment packs, and rules in general memorized. Because the Dungeon Master listened to me as well, I started arguing against that guy when I thought he was overstepping. For example, we had a boss fight against this necromancer. That guy left the necromancer's range and they cast inflict wounds as an opportunity attack. That guy, you can't do that unless he has the warcaster feat. He can't cast the spell as an opportunity attack. Dungeon Master doesn't know what the Warcaster feat is, again, new to the game. It's an ability I gave him to cast inflict wounds when people leave his range. That guy, well, that's against the rules. If you didn't specifically give him the Warcaster feat, then they can't do that.
That's rough. That actually, dude, if you're like a new DM and like this is happening, oh man, that's rough. You should be able to do that. The DM here is actually completely valid in like saying like that he wanted to design it in a way where they could cast a spell that normally a player couldn't do this, but then they can. Yeah.
Master looks at me. Well, NPCs, especially the bosses, don't necessarily have to follow the same rules that player characters are
100% true.
Bound to. They're bosses after all. At the end of the day, you are the Dungeon Master. If you say that the Necromancer can, then he can. Or if you say he now has the Warcaster feat, then he now has the Warcaster feat. It's your call. The Dungeon Master stands by the boss's ability. That guy doesn't like that. I always find it sad when that guy is always like the childhood or close friend of the Dungeon Master who's being taken advantage of. Clearly, this guy's played the game just long enough to know that that's an ability that someone could have in theory. And it totally makes sense to give it to the boss here. But because specifically that guy is getting hurt, he's going to basically bully his friend over and over to save himself. What? How much damage could that really be? Is it truly going to kill his character outright or be like a long-lasting thing that happens in the campaign? I really do feel bad for this Dungeon Master, and the author's right.
I do
There's
too, yeah.
3 or 4 different ways that you can say it's totally okay for this to be a thing. Your friend is just being difficult, and I hope you don't take it personally. All right, let's jump back to the story. This sort of stuff went on and on, but the Dungeon Master wasn't really willing to do anything about it. That guy also constantly talked about a one-shot that he wanted to run for us. After months, it was never ready. One week, at the end of the session, the Dungeon Master said he needed a small break for next week and asked if anyone else wanted to Dungeon Master a one-shot. That guy remained silent, so I offered myself, as I have a few one-shots in my back pocket if need be. We discussed
actually this poster is based
new group chat, and I told everyone to make a level 6 character and give themselves a free feat. That guy asked if there were any rules for character.
That's kind of the guy you want at the table that's willing to step up like that. That's
creation.
Really cool.
I took this as his way of asking if he could play a homebrew class. I stated that I would allow any class/subclass that's from a book I own, which is most of them. Later on, he sent me a picture of the stats he rolled, asking if they were okay.
Guys, just do array. Just do array, man. Rolling is so annoying for stat. Just do arrays, man. So if you don't know tabletop, I'm gonna give you the so there are times when rolling for stats is fine. It's like when you're kind of just fucking around and you're like, I just want to whatever the world gives me. That's fine. But if you're playing anything like I guess in this case it might be like fine because it's it might be fine, but you really have to be with people you trust that are all on board for this. Because the problem is that people are going to cheat their roles like this guy. The difference is, so you have like your stats, right? Like just think of it like your stats in the video game. If you roll on character creation, when you roll, you just get random stats. But an array is when you have X amount of stat points and then you can put them in whatever you want.
He rolled 60-20 instead of 46.
Standard array is boring. Point buy is where you're at. Point works too, yeah. One way that people roll is they do the drop lowest, but it's still kind of like you're gonna have a guy that's going to either that. This is the other annoying thing. Some people do this too. This is actually my least favorite. Do you guys know about the roll but like unlimited rerolls? That's the fucking worst. That's literally the worst. If you're a DM and you do that, like you're an asshole. If you say like, yeah, you roll for stats but unlimited rerolls, you're like a fucking you're literally like a gacha game asshole that's basically telling people to reroll over and over again. It's so annoying.
6, drop the lowest, reroll any ones that I explicitly stated earlier we would be using. These stats were 18, 17, 16, 16, 14, and 12. He then sent a follow-up text saying, "Oh, I forgot we were rolling 46, not 60-20. What would you want me to do?" Something I noticed with this guy is that his That Guy game is built around deniability. I responded, "We're going to do the 46, drop the lowest, reroll any ones. Everyone will roll stats at the table." Game time came and that guy showed up with the lore bard with the spellcasting adept feat. Nothing out of the usual. Then the first combat came up and that guy revealed that he had taken Eldritch Blast and Hex from the feat. Now this wouldn't really be a problem, but another person, the by far less problematic person in the group, had a warlock and this was already known by everyone. That guy pointed out to the non-problematic player that he could do everything his character could and then he would still have all his other spell slots left. He had a real smug look about it as he did it, and he really sort of stepped on Warlock's toes.
That's really annoying.
Use the rest of his spell.
That's actually like so fucking annoying when you have a player do that.
Spell slots to spam.
This is why whenever I'll give you guys I'll give you guys another thing is when you're this doesn't really apply to Moraine because Moraine is like every situation is different. And sometimes you might want to have like double of like one type of character. But in like D&D especially, when there's not that many classes and there's you can't like multi-class like as easily into like having like a completely unique like character set that like has like a completely like custom character set where like you have tools for certain roles, right? In D&D, it's not like that. You're like pretty almost. You're basically almost like a high percentage of like what your character can do can be very similar to like what another person could do. And what that does is it creates a situation where nobody's special at the table. So like what you want to do generally is, or it's fine if people are signed up for that, but generally you want everybody to have a sort of role on a team so that they feel like they have ownership over a certain part of the game. That there are going to be times where my character is the one to do the thing. So what you should do is you should always have people make their characters together if they're going to be a party, in my opinion, because that prevents this sort of thing from happening. Because then what could happen is he's like, yeah, I'm gonna run a bard and I'm gonna have Eldritch Blast, and then the warlock can be like, okay, I won't play a warlock then because like you're doing like exactly what I wanted to do, so it's fine. I'll play a different character, and like that's how you get around that. It's just communication, right?
Silvery barbs every single round. The one-shots still went great regardless. We had a lot of fun. The campaign continued, and eventually that guy stated he would no longer be available on the day we played as school was starting up. This is apparently what ended the previous 2 campaigns, and the Dungeon Master wasn't going to run a game without him. Dungeon Master
Boonta says you say that, but wait, are you gonna shit on me for playing Transmuter with the walls? Our walls are different, Boon, and also you slow. Oh, 3. Okay, you were shitting on. Okay, fair. You know what?
Said
Whatever.
he would move the game to Saturday
Whatever,
during
Boone.
the day, but then never set up another session. Ironically, that guy would almost always text the old group chat on nights we used to play, asking if anyone wanted to get online and play video games with him for a few hours. A little under a month after the group's hiatus began, I started up a new group chat and campaign for everyone in the old campaign. The Dungeon Master was pretty excited to actually experience the game as a player,
Nice.
and admitted that being Dungeon Master was draining him.
True.
I did not invite that guy to play with us. Every once in a while, when he texts the old group chat if everyone wants to play video games on Wednesdays,
Oh no, dude, that's so awkward.
we play, or play D&D on Saturday, the answer from everyone to both is always no. I can't help but grin. And we do get a little bit of a happy ending where the Dungeon Master is kind of getting bullied by a friend he has a hard time saying no to, doesn't have to deal with them anymore. I think it would be nice if the Dungeon Master was able to honestly share his thoughts with that guy, but clearly it seems like he has a personality.
It's rough
where
because
that
you
might
have it's your friend.
not go
right?
well, and he doesn't want to risk the friendship they have out of game. The way I see it, that guy probably doesn't take
The
D&D
friendship might be more important than D&D, to be honest.
seriously. Like, he wants to play it enough, but clearly he wants to keep his Wednesdays open, because if he gets too stressed with school, or maybe he just wants to keep Wednesdays open to do anything else, he was totally okay with killing the previous campaign. Maybe that's a sign that it's not worth bringing him back to the table. So I guess I'm glad that at least the author is the Dungeon Master now, and all these new players don't have to deal with a veteran who's just really trying to get their own way and presenting it as the right way to play D&D. I know he mentioned in the one shot he played that power gaming bard, and I think it's totally okay to play a very strong character, but to intentionally pick a feat in a way where you can outshine the entire gimmick of another player who's inexperienced, and then you say to their face, hey buddy.
Well, the thing is like this is the thing about D&D, and it's a little bit harder. It's not as simple as I'm gonna make it out to be, but like if you don't like the people you're playing with and you don't like the DM, then you can find other people to play with, especially nowadays. This wasn't so much the case like back in the day when people were playing like at a literal tabletop, then you're kind of stuck with like who plays D&D in the area that you live in. But nowadays it's a lot easier to play online. So you could find other people to play with if you don't have the right vibe with the group, you can just find another group.
You're really useless. My character's way better. Isn't that cool? No one would actually think that's cool, man. I don't know why you did that. But it's just one of the many examples on why a problem player sometimes just doesn't realize
Thank you,
how
Arson.
annoying they can
I'll
be.
thank everyone
And this is a
properly at
quick
the end of
aside
the
about
video.
The D&D wiki. I've had players that try to bring those classes to my tables, and oh man, are they all very terrible. I know literally anyone can throw something up there, and maybe it's their first time where they haven't really thought about game balance, or they want intentionally to have the class be way cooler and stronger than any of the core classes because it has all the pieces they want from different classes slapped together in the same package, and you get them way earlier because you want to play that character at 100%, really quickly into the campaign. What I'm trying to say is they're not very well vetted. They're not very well game tested. You might find some gems in the rough, don't get me wrong, but you're probably going to find some much cooler ones from either creators that have done Kickstarters and have put in a lot of effort to play test and do different iterations of these classes. So I'm not saying all homebrew classes are bad, and it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Well, I mean, you just think about it. Homebrew is basically Steam Workshop for D&D. So imagine you have tabletop RPGs, but there's Steam Workshop. 50% of them are going to be garbage. They're going to come out with like, there's going to be persons like, this is the new class. This is the Hell Scythe Dark Knight class. And it's going to be like really fucking bad. And that's because, it's just random people making it. They're not really like, you don't know what their skill level is in like game design and understanding of balance and stuff like that. An understanding of like the game, like how the game operates with like other things, other interactions like within the game. You don't know that. So, it's literally Steam Workshop. So you're going to get some shit and you're going to get some good. And it just kind of depends.
That a person wants to play one. It's just those on the D&D wiki.
All of Lyrian Chronicles is homebrew? No, because it's our own system. It's a new system.
Are very broken, and if you're a game master and a new game master that can't understand,
if people make their
how
own
bad some of these
classes,
class
then that's
features
homebrew.
are, even if that guy was trying to be nice and not trying to get an unfair advantage, which he totally was, it would be a nightmare for a dungeon master to handle.
There's some element of homebrew to every campaign. To every campaign that a DM makes is some sort of homebrew. which is why I said before that the skill of your DM matters a great amount when it comes to the enjoyment of the entire table.
Just something that I wouldn't want an amateur dungeon master going through when they're still trying to figure out what's good and bad about the NPCs they're picking for the monster manual and the core classes that the player characters are playing. One thing that I will never understand about problem players in TTRPGs is their willingness to become so powerful that everyone just wants to stop playing. You don't win the game if everyone else quits. You just don't have another session. There's no benefit of becoming so powerful that you make the rest of your players feel useless, or as a dungeon master, you hold such a stranglehold on the story that the party feels like they don't.
Honestly, it's people that want to feel cool. That's what it is. It's people that want to feel uniquely cool over other people. And the way I like to do it personally is I like to make everyone feel uniquely cool in a different way. That's my DMing style. Even when I ran Homebrew, the original Angel Sword campaign, when I ran that, I told every player, you get one ability that no one else has. You tell me what you want for that, and I will make it for you. And every single player got to pick one power that they had. For Ira, it was the angel blooded ability, which is now in the ASTTRPG. It was the angel blooded ability. For Zuri, it was like a druid that turned into like giant monsters, like giant Colossus level monsters. Zuri turned into that. And then the wizard, not wizard, the mage, Wiggles, who played Naja, who is actually I have pictures of all of these characters actually. Hold on. I got you guys. Although the Zuri one is a little bit scuffed. So we have Naja, this one, the girl on the right, Naja. Her ability was that she could create spells. So like she had certain modifiers that she could add to spells, and she could make her own spells. So like every level she got to like make her own spell. And then Zuri had like giant monsters. Let me see, Zuri. I only have a scuffed picture of Zuri. She's actually the ASTT RPG, like, you know, the Discord, you know, the little icon for the Discord. That's actually Zuri. Chibis. Okay, I found them. So here's Naja. This was like the OG party. This is Naja. And then you had Zuri. Look at this Naruto looking ass character, man. Holy shit. Not my character, by the way. This is Zuri, and she's the one that she transforms. She is a demon, like basically a druid. She's like a class that's not in the game yet. Naja is she is a catfolk chimera. She's half slime, but like she doesn't have any of the slime abilities. She's catfolk chimera mage. And then you had Ira, who was the angel blood. And that was like all of their abilities, basically. Their unique abilities for each character. So Ira wanted the angel blooded. Zuri wanted I turn into big monster, and Naja wanted I create my own spells. And so they had like those three abilities that like no, and I said like those will be like your abilities, and like no one will have those abilities in the world unless there's some crazy circumstance around it. Yeah.
Don't even need to be involved. There is no other way to win D&D besides just having fun. I wonder if you guys agree with my sentiment, and I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on the second story as well, and just overall which one you thought was worse between the stubborn dungeon master in the first one or the annoying that guy player in the second one. Make sure to like and share the video if you guys enjoyed the stories that I covered today, and if you want to support the channel further, you can always subscribe or become a member. And as always, I hope to see you in the next video. Farewell for now.
All right. I will link you guys the video. Again, Loot Goblin Marketplace. Really cool dude. Please check out their stuff. I'd appreciate it if you did.